broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome to the Space Jam.
Stay a moment.
Guys, the buzz is beginning.
Here we go, Lex. Wow, look at us going, everybody. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Legends of Tomorrow After Show.
Sing to the jam. Come on and sing if you want to jam.
Look at these people. Look at them go. Enjoying some sweet Space Jam.
Yeah.
Join us.
Yes. Well, everybody, to the Legends Tomorrow After Show. I'm one of your hosts here for this incredible panel, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter. But we've got this great lineup here, including the world's most biggest Space Jam aficionado.
Yeah.
I guess we can say that, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Lex Michael.
That's actually not on my resume as of this moment.
It
I think
should
you actually weren't supposed to bring that up, Frank.
Oh, I wasn't?
It was, that
Now-
was a secret shame.
Now that I have been outed, yes, in fact, I can quote more of Space Jam than I am comfortable admitting in this so public a forum. But I am Lex Michael, all over social media at the Lex Michael. If you care to follow me, and we can squote? Nope. We can quote Space Jam together. Although, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go squote. We're gonna squote it. We're gonna squote the jam.
Follow Dave on Vine, who'll be doing a series of, or Lex on Vine, who'll be doing a series of quotes from the film,
Yeah,
reenacting
just Space
it.
Jam. Yeah.
There you go.
Squote.
Then
Yeah.
we have Mr. Dave Child over there.
Oh, hey, I'm at Mr. Dave Child on Twitter and Instagram and davechild.com.
And what are
How's
you
it
doing
going?
to squote?
I'm going to squote just everything. Squote just sounds gross.
It does, doesn't it?
I don't want to, squote is not a good new word that we just made up.
No.
Ugh.
And joining us here at the end of the panel this week, you know her, you love her from many other AfterBuzz shows, Katie Cullen.
Well, the love thing is kind of debatable given some of the comments I've gotten, but I love most of them.
They do know you.
They
Yes.
do know me, for better or for worse.
They know.
You can find me on Twitter at Kiaxet, that's Kiaxet, and I will squote Muppet Treasure Island till the cows come home.
Oh, jeez. Squote.
Squote. All right, should we squote this episode of
Squote,
Legends
yes,
of Tomorrow?
squote episode 7, Marooned.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not called Space Jammed?
No.
It really should be
It
called
really
Space Jam.
should have been.
This was a missed opportunity.
Yeah,
Right, and
I
if
mean,
you guys have anything fun to say, we've got the hashtag ABTVLOT that we're following on Twitter, and we're going to have the live chat up in just a minute, too. So
Yeah.
if you have anything fun to say, let us know. You may well get a shout out.
Yeah, there you go. Like us on Facebook there. Follow us on Twitter. Check us out on iTunes. There you go. And you can follow us on the live chat.
Yo, I've got an internet.
You've got an internet?
Yeah, I can do all those
He's
things.
got an internet.
I got one, guys. I
Is
got
it a series of tubes?
It's the infrastructure is on an internet, something like that. I don't remember. Like old hacker talk from 90s TV. Doesn't matter.
I'm in.
We're
Anyway,
off to a great start.
Yeah, so
This
wonderful.
episode.
Certainly, this episode dealing with our first time traveling into space, and they really
Yeah.
made sure that the writers wanted to get their Star Wars and Star Trek references aplenty throughout this entire episode.
yes.
Really laid deep into that. So just a quick initial impressions there about the show, Lex.
Well, we now know which Trek Captain Kendra is more attracted to.
Yeah, there you go.
Which, going into this series, was something I was really hoping they would address as a fan of the comics, where I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure this never came up.
It's one of those unanswered questions that you've always wondered. Just seeing it on the page is one thing, but like, gosh darn it.
And so now, of course, now that they've opened that door, as it were, now I'm asking myself, well, like, which Star Trek captain is Rip most attracted to? Do the
Right.
Time Masters watch Star Trek?
Captain Janeway all the way there
Yeah,
for Rip.
Captain
You know that.
Janeway.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Everyone is attracted to Picard.
Yeah, I would say like Captain Janeway
Everyone.
is the safe answer for most heterosexual men, but I have to say I think Picard is a sexy man.
Yes.
Everyone is attracted to Picard.
Yeah,
I'm just leaving that there.
But, like, okay, so to actually answer your question, we were watching this episode with subtitles on, and there was a point towards the end of the episode where everybody is fighting each other, and there was a subtitle that read something to the effect of "all grunt." And I think that to me really encapsulates this episode, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just think that's a pretty good way to sum up everything that happened tonight.
Well,
So
yeah.
just, for me, it was the subtitle error that we had, because if you fast forward through commercials, the subtitles go insane.
Right.
Where Rip is just yelling about how angry he is and how awful things are, and it cuts to Jax, and he just looks really like, oh my God, are you serious? And the subtitle over him that wouldn't go away just said, me.
Yeah. I mean, this was a fun one. I liked some of the relationships that kind of happened out of this. I like the Sarah and Snart relationship. That's the one duo that I want to see. Kind of, if I'm shipping anyone, I guess it's maybe them, because they actually have a good chemistry that's going on. So I kind of want to see. That was nice to kind of put them in the same place for a long time.
Yeah.
So.
I agree with you. I like that they very clearly have chemistry, and I like that we're not rushing that. We're actually letting them play moments of this relationship that they're building, and we're watching them build this relationship, and they're not. That's what's bothering me, I think, about spoilers, the fact that Ray and Kendra kiss at the end of this episode, is that it feels like we just jumped a lot in that
They
relationship.
also both nearly died. So I'm willing to throw a lot of it onto that. Just like, it is hormones o'clock.
That does make sense.
Yes, we're in space. We gotta kiss.
Where no one can hear you
Well,
scream.
we'll
No one can hear us make out. Yeah.
We'll start here at the top of the episode. We just see Rip. He's watching his holographic recording there of his son Jonas and his wife Miranda.
He's hanging out with the ghost of his son. That's
Yeah,
all
just
it
on-
is.
wallowing
just on
Rip.
replay.
I don't know if any of you guys watch Red versus Blue, but oh my God, it's watching the clip of Allison over and over and over. Like, no, I already watched someone who was supposed to be in charge of an important mission go insane after continually watching the people he loved. Let's not do that.
Right.
Let's just stop.
Well, it seems like such a change from last week's episode where as they take off, Rip says, we're going to go where he least expects us. So you think he's got some kind of game plan, only to find out that he really had nothing, and he's been just sitting in his office for a week, going through trying to make connections and just watching recording of his son and his wife again and again.
Yeah, I feel like
Right.
the only thing that was missing from that image is a half-empty bottle of space whiskey.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like 2 pints of Space Ben and Jerry's.
or that, or both.
Yeah, both.
But I
Just
also...
mixing them all together.
I love, and by love I mean I am just so bewildered by the fact that this guy is still in charge. We see him.
the same thing as love.
Yeah, but I do. I really enjoy that they seem to be, and I don't know if this is intentional or not. They really seem to be doubling down every week on top of the last episode. As far as here's another reason we shouldn't let this guy sit in the captain chair.
Right.
And so I guess since we last left our heroes, for us it was a week, and for them it was a little bit of a time jump. Is this what he's been doing this for however long it's been? Well, actually, they reference he's been in there for about a week.
For
A
about a
week,
week,
yeah.
yes.
For about a week, and then once he gets out, once it's like, okay, we actually have a crisis to deal with here, there's something going on, it still takes him however long it takes him to not captain in a t-shirt and sweats.
He throws his coat on over his pajamas. He's wearing that shirt the whole time.
Yeah.
He's constantly.
That's all he does.
He's just been in pajamas since his family died. He's just like, this is my life now. I'm pajama man.
See, that is how I walk to Vaughn's at 1 a.m. when I want ice cream. Is a hoodie over my pajamas. Like, that is not how you do your job.
To be fair, I think if you time traveled in your pajamas, you could be pretty safe at any time period. Because it could just look like, you guys don't sleep in rags? I just sleep in my soiled rags that I could just wear back in the medieval times, and I go to the future, and it's like Mad Max, and it's perfect.
That
It
is
fits
far,
everywhere.
far more than I have ever wanted to know about anyone on this
That's
panel.
okay. Soiled rags are the
Ever.
best things to sleep in. That's all I gotta say.
It's the specification that the rags are soiled.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
Only
the
the best
thing.
rags are.
That's the, oh God.
Well, we find out what the weakness of being
Good
a time
night,
master is that certainly a time master, as you're going around through the timeline, you're changing things that you constantly need to go back to the vanishing point, and you've got to update your AI because your timelines are changing.
By the way, I just want to note that the Vanishing Point just sounds like the hottest nightclub.
That's right. You got to head over to the vanishing point.
Come on down to the Vanishing Point and update your software.
Where your night disappears.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Which certainly they've been in multiple timelines since then, so it seems weird. Already 7 episodes in, now is the first time we realize, oh yeah, we really need to get back and reconnect with like.
Yeah,
the
we're running like 3 versions ago of the iOS on this thing.
Yes.
I know, yeah. Well, I was thinking it just got so out of date because they probably changed just enough of history. They don't really know what's going on, and that's what they really have to update. That's what I assumed was happening, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh wait, now there's the Soviet heat wave that we have to deal with. Whatever happened in the future, and they brought They brought Sad Ollie back, so that probably changed the future a bit. Because Sad Ollie's back in like fighting form, so they have to be like.
But that
let's
was
see
a
what
potential
happens.
future. That future may not even be the future.
Right, but they haven't changed anything to change the potential future.
That
so
is
right
also
now,
true.
that's why all their software is out of date, because they're like, we don't know what's going on. We have to hook into the
so
main
like
thing.
what you're saying, and this I think ultimately isn't that important because the show is enough fun week to week that it keeps at least me from thinking too much about it. But like you're saying, we don't know how much of the timeline they've screwed up. Whatever we've seen is only one of an infinite number of potential different timelines.
Yeah.
They're jumping around in time machines. We saw 2 time ships in this episode. How much could any of this possibly actually matter?
Right. Well, they need to figure out where actually they went way back farther in time than they have before. So they need to figure out where Savage is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
you would think
that's
they
what
would-
they were updating.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
think like because they're kind of where is he right now? But if they just keep going back in time, like Rip is saying, I would think you would just want to just keep going back and back and back because that's not changing. Only the future is changing from wherever you're at currently and then on.
Also, like most time travel movies and shows, I feel like you just look at enough paintings and pictures, you're gonna see Savage just in the background somewhere, and like, okay, we just have to go and
Go to that one, yeah.
While
I
we're
mean,
taking that picture.
I keep drawing Doctor Who parallels because how can you
God,
not? But
I got yelled at
that
the
is-
first time we talked about this because I was drawing all the Doctor Who parallels.
Because they're all there.
They're all
Yeah.
there.
He's a maverick who travels on his own and is used to traveling on
Right.
his own and is really, really bad at working with other people, despite the fact that he brings them on his team. And God help him, he would not have survived without the help of these other people he got. And
Also,
he
yeah.
already managed to get one killed in episode 2. We have an Adric.
Oh, man.
So
Yeah.
you know what?
I mean,
they're time lords.
I
They're
still get-
time lords. He stole a ship and he ran away.
Okay, I still
you.
get confused though when every time someone says like Rory's out of control, and I'm like, no, he seems to be fine. He's right. Oh wait, that's not Rory in this one. Right, that's Rip Hunter.
Right.
That's a different Rory. We're talking about a different Rory.
But and that's the thing too, and that's what I'm
Bless.
saying is for me, because it is so convoluted, and so when you're dealing with time travel, you can almost always, no matter what you screw up or don't screw up, you
Right.
can find a way to go back and undo it. So for me, in a lot of time travel stories, when you really start picking that part of it apart, not only does it not make any real sense, but I feel like the stakes for me start to unravel pretty quickly, which is why I'm really glad that for me, like especially in an episode like tonight's, there is the all grunt of it all that keeps me
Really sticking with his grunt.
That's right.
I love it.
But it's the really goofy, let's all just punch each other fun
Yeah.
that keeps me in the show, even when the second I take a step back, I go, I'm not sure any of this makes sense or matters.
Right.
But we got more world building, we got more character building, and I honestly don't think that Time Masters team up with anyone or travel with anyone because she had a ship full of pirates and it
Yeah.
was just her.
Space pirates.
Those are horrible
I mean, sorry,
odds.
time pirates.
Time
That's right.
They kept making-
Yeah,
They
no.
kept trying to say like they kept saying time pirates, and I kept saying like, we're all time travelers here. We could just call them pirates.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
going to France and calling them French fries.
Also,
just call them fries.
I did like seeing Callum Keith Rennie as the leader. What was his name? Captain Valor
Yes.
of the
Yeah,
Time
yeah.
Pilot.
He was great.
Probably best known, or at least best known to me, as Leoben from Battlestar Galactica.
That's where he's from.
And they seem to be casting, I know, oh god, the actor's now Aaron Douglas, I believe, who played Chief Tyrrell, showed up on The Flash a handful of weeks ago as the Turtle. So I like getting to see
Those Vancouver actors.
the Battlestar Galactica actors now showing up
Damn.
a lot more in other things that I'm watching.
Yeah.
But also, so Captain Valor is a character that does exist in the comics, but the Captain Valor in the comics is almost nothing like this version other than they are both pirates. The Captain Valor, or the Valor in the comics, is this 16th century British nobleman. He's the Black Pirate. And he's a pirate, but he's a pirate.
He's a pirate
He's
pirate.
not a time pirate.
Okay. That's still kind of nice that they brought him into like...
Totally.
He's a space pirate. And someone actually just brought up on the feed, it's kind of going by fast so we can't catch it who it was, but someone just asked like, I still want to know more info about these time pirates, which I thought is a good point because I kept wondering why these pirates weren't going back in time and just stealing the Mona Lisa like over and over and over again. But it seems like they're going after other time ships to gain some parts. So maybe that's the Are we going to see more time pirates as the series goes on? Is it going to be involved? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, certainly we've hinted at Kronos, and he's been sort of kind of a reoccurring semi-threat. So I don't know if it'd be interesting to have something else other than having to worry about Vandal Savage constantly.
Yeah.
And like he said, it's time pirates as if time pirates are a thing, not as if these are the only time pirates. It's not like he didn't say it's the time pirates. It's time pirates.
That makes sense because who are they chasing after? If they're not, because they can't go after Vandal Savage. They have to go after people. The Time Masters have to go after people who keep changing the timeline. So maybe those people, we can consider them all time pirates in a way.
Well, and they're not the only time travelers around. I mean, chat keeps mentioning Booster Gold. God bless you all. Seriously, I wish.
There is they did though reference explicitly that Rip Hunter is not Rip Hunter's real name, and if you read the comics, you know that Rip Hunter's last name. I mean, he's the child of Booster Gold, whose name is Michael John Carter. So we know that Rip Hunter's last name is actually Carter. I don't know if that's actually going to come up because we still don't know whether or not they can even talk about Booster Gold.
Yeah.
I
do like, by the way, that made them not being able to have kids or have a family or even bone make a bit more sense. Because the fact that they couldn't hook up because they need to have no ties to for pirates or the bad guys that they're fighting to take advantage of. So that was actually nice to hear, because I think that's the first time we heard reasoning behind, we're supposed to all be celibate. That's, I think, what we heard before, and that's why he kind of left the flock and kind of Anakin Skywalkered it. But this way, it's nice to figure out why and have a reason behind it. So that was nice to hear from the future. One thing that surprised me that I don't think we've touched upon yet is that Gideon is not the Siri of all spaceships or the future.
We had a Gilbert
and a Gary
and a Gary
in
and
the
a
simulation.
They all start with G, though.
They do.
They all like G's.
There you go. So we do find out, though, that we're talking about ships there. We find out that the Akron, another Time Master vessel there, is abandoned, or it's in trouble in space. So they, with Captain Baxter, sends out a little mayday. They need a little help. So Rip says, wait, this is perfect. The Akron can have a system. We can update Gideon with all the relevant info to track down Vandal Savage. So let's get out to space and do this. Which Rory's excited to, just to have the change of scenery, because he's definitely going stir crazy.
Sure. He wants to light something on fire.
Yes.
Space is not the best place to light stuff on fire.
Nope.
Though.
Not usually.
Nope.
Well, he is an angry, angry man who has been cooped up and can no longer trust the one person that he thought he could. Like, we knew he was going to be the bull in the china shop from the beginning, but it's just gotten worse.
Yeah. That was also a good relationship. Building and kind of falling apart in this episode was between Heatwave and Captain Cold.
No, definitely. So we do get them heading over. Rip puts Palmer in charge of the Wave Rider there.
Why?
Why? Because, why not? He's got that swanky suit that fails more often than not. So let's put him in charge of the Wave Rider.
He's got the technological know-how, but Kendra can keep him in line.
Right.
So he's not really in charge. He just thinks he's in charge.
Can we talk about that weird moment where Rip was like, Kendra, he's in your hands? I'm like, are you really trying to get them together?
He's really, really bored and sad, and he's got nothing better to do between drop missions than ship his crew.
I can watch my failed relationship, or I can start other doomed to fail relationships. All right. It's like an episode of The Bachelor on this ship.
So we get Rip taking Stein and Rory and Jax with him over to the Akron, and we get Stein, who's just jazzed about this. It makes his first little DC callback to the Space Ranger.
Yes.
A great character from the 50s and 60s, so that was really cool to get him.
Where was the callback to that?
When he says, I was a Space Ranger, I grew up watching the Space Ranger TV show, and Space Ranger was a comic series in DC.
Nice.
The 50s and 60s with Rick Starr. Was a really cool dude. Had a yellow and red suit as well. And he fought space pirates, so that was always a nice
There were a couple of crazy deep cuts DC references tonight.
I was kind of almost expecting a little Adam Strange at some point. Is that his name?
Well,
the guy with the
Adam Strange, and Kanjar Ro, who we name check a little later, is one of Rip's battle plans. Is somebody that fought against Kanjar Ro, as well as the Justice League and other comics as well. So we get a little name check with him. But then we get some of Rip's first flashback with his soon-to-be wife, Miranda. And they're doing their Kobayashi Maru moment.
That's it.
Yes.
I so saw that. It was like that weird, another Star Trek like reference.
Yes.
That whole scene where they were like, how are we going to solve this unsolvable problem? And then she turns out to be the Kirk.
She's the Kirk, man. Yes.
And that means he's the Spock? I assume.
No.
It kind of seems like it.
He's like Spock if Spock has absolutely no heightened Vulcan abilities or powers of logic or is good at stuff.
So he's Kirk without the panache.
It felt like more like the Bones in that moment, but with a little bit more moxie to him.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, what are you doing? This is crazy.
I couldn't help but be like, girl, what are you doing? Don't give up on your career and give it to him.
So that's really my big question about this entire flashback story we get in this episode, is that on its surface, it's, oh, how sweet, like we know it ends badly, but it's like, oh, it's so romantic, and we know they end up together, that's so nice. But the second you think about it, isn't this story about a really driven, able woman who gives up her career for a dude?
Well,
Yeah, that felt very icky to me.
Yeah, and her reasoning was kind of like, her reasoning was just like, I realized I believe in love, so I can't do it. You can still do it, and we can still love. But I gotta go because I believe in love, so I can't work. I was like, that's a little bit.
And I kind of want to touch on that because you talked about the Jedi a little bit, but at least they went out in pairs. They formed bonds between masters and apprentices, etc.
Yeah.
The way it looks like the Time Masters are set up, you're on your own. Human beings don't function that way, or at least they don't function very well. If you cut them off from love, they stop being empathetic, they stop having the ability to care about other people, and that does impede their judgment in certain ways. So you kind of have to strike a balance there between, okay, do we want you can keep your emotions in control, or do we want you're not allowed to make any attachments ever? Like, how are they going to work this? And I feel like the Time Masters have chosen a very extreme method that, as we've seen, does not work well with everyone and makes them lawful good to the point of fault.
Right. So what you're saying is, to solve everything and get the Time Masters back on his side, Rip just has to make sure they all get laid.
Well, go back. We're back to the Doctor Who thing.
So
we
wait,
had
are you
10 on his
saying-
own for a while, and he went completely off the rails. He needs someone who actually has that empathy and that ability to connect with people to kind of keep him in check. So having these lone they're not Time Lords, they're Time Masters, as mavericks, they need someone there who can work with their empathy, who can
work them out,
beat a human angle.
Get them laid.
Well, you see a lot with like the like sort of like the big organizations, even in like the DC universe, like the Guardians of the Universe, things like that, where they take it to such an extreme that they end up losing that empathetic nature that they really need to best do their duty, and they end up really fighting against like Hal Jordan, like I can't be you're just emotionless. I got to be able to do these things. So you always see him going rogue against the Guardians, usually for the greater good.
Right.
But the greater good.
Yes.
But then too, I also have to point out that, and it's something that I pointed out while we were watching the show, for two people who are spoken of initially as being, relatively speaking, very good at their jobs, at being so adept at being Time Masters, at least potentially adept at being Time Masters, they don't wait till they're further away from the room to start making out. This like secret, torrid, forbidden affair that they're having. Can't wait till they're back at somebody's apartment. They do it like, do they think the guy is going to stay in that room forever?
In front of God and everyone and an open window. But I also feel like they were maybe 18 at the time, and no one makes good decisions at that point.
Sure, but I feel like at 18, I went, the person in this room will probably exit this room at some point.
Right.
Hormones.
I mean,
all right.
Yeah, so when they get
Actually,
busted,
that's
and they're
fair.
going to be brought to the Time Council to talk a little bit.
yeah.
But meantime, we go back to the present, and we've got Rip, Rory, and Jax on the ship, and they leave Stein back on the runner.
Let's talk about Stein a little bit.
Yes.
Let's talk about Stein.
Stein in this show keeps being put in situations where he's like the badass of the group. He's the guy that's like has to put on a beret or a turtleneck and kind of go in and kind of lie his way and be like, yeah, I get to be a space ranger. And he does it again in this one.
Well,
I honestly think it's because he keeps mind melding with a bunch of 20-something guys.
Right.
And
That
I'm
might be
wondering,
it.
if that doesn't have an impact on his psyche. I feel like it must. He spends so much time himself, in the mind of 20-something dudes, that how can that not rub off on him a little bit? Because you see him. It's weird because in some episodes, like I think last week, we saw him getting weirdly involved in other people's romantic lives to the point where he was really being jerkish and petty, like weirdly so. And then this week, we see him walking around with this space gun and a beret, and I really wanted him to be like chomping on a cigar or two. It would have been amazing. Like I feel like somewhere in his mind, and I don't know that I think that's even up Martin's alley entertainment-wise, but I think somewhere in the back of his mind, he wants to be Hannibal from the A-Team.
Right, yeah.
I just wasn't surprised, but you thought you'd seen the last of me.
It's Stein time.
That's right, and the reason that Stein's got to do that is because, of course, Rip, Rory, and Jackson, as Jack throws out, I got a bad feeling about this little quote from Star Wars. They get ambushed by the the Time Pirates, led by John Valor.
By the way, I think we can pretty much describe the entire series as Rip Rory.
Rip Rory, yes, Rip Rory. It's a Rip Rory. But we find
It's a Rip Rory good time.
for everything we've heard about Rip being this great guy, we at least get a little name check to his awesomeness there by the pirates. Who were saying like, oh yeah, we used to fear this guy. We were always running away.
It is nice for all that we've heard about how great Rip Hunter is at being a time master. It's nice to finally receive confirmation that someone else in the universe thinks this.
But at this point, it's all lip service.
Yeah, we have not seen him actually do anything yet.
Stein has been a better time master than Rip
Although
Hunter.
we did see tonight, Rip is very adept at jumping over surfaces and kicking people.
That's true. That's true.
Well, and thinking ahead enough to plan the codes into Gideon, program the codes into Gideon. I can word. It's working.
Yeah.
Like, he's a heck of a lot smarter than he acts. And keep in mind that this is a guy who brought on a team, which is something he's not used to working with, and is horrifically emotionally distraught, which is probably also something he's not used to working with.
You know, I want to bring up a point. Earlier we said, like, why is Ray captaining the ship? And I think it's because he won't touch or hurt anything. That's a good point. He'll probably just keep the comm on so that he can just Rip can keep going, like, saying code words that just activate the ship and fly it around him. That's probably the best reason.
Yeah, so Valor needs to get the Wave Rider because Captain Baxter disabled that time ship, so they couldn't use that. So they need the Wave Rider, so they're going to hold them hostage. They contact Palmer, and he's like, what? I don't know. Should we do this? And then Rip has got it all programmed with verbal cues. First with he survived the Imperiex onslaught, which was another nice nod to back to the old DC Superman comics.
Oh.
Our worlds at war.
How so?
Imperiex was a cosmic entity who wanted to hollow out the universe.
What was it? It was Our Worlds at War?
Our Worlds at War, yeah. It was a big kind of crossover there amongst the Superman titles and a couple of other one-shots and stuff.
And, like, if I remember correctly, and this is something I've read about more than it is a story arc that I've actually read, but wasn't this it was viewed as such a threat, Imperiex was, to our reality and to the planet Earth, that Superman had to assemble a team that actually included Doomsday at one point, I believe.
Right. Was that the one where he was, like, recruiting future Superman and, like, other ones? Or
wasn't that one? This was actually the series where Wonder Woman's mother, at least back in the pre-Flashpoint universe, she died the first time there, Hippolyta. She died in the course of that battle. So it was he wanted it because that original Earth survived the crisis of the Infinite Earth, so it has like a nice source of energy for this universe, and he wanted to hollow out everything.
Cool.
Hey, comics.
Yeah, there you go, guys.
Comics.
Yes.
They're
so he activates the Imperiex, the command there, and the ship starts attacking without Palmer's consent. They're starts blasting away at the Acheron. So and then he throws out also his other Kanjar Row. That was his other command there as well, from the old Justice League and Adam Strange villain. Nice. And but we find out that during the course of that, though, the Wave Rider does get its hull breached. So we So they get Snart and Sarah to go on the task to kind of steal that.
It is smart to have the cold gun kind of seal it up, because that actually does make sense as a temporary solution. Is to like fire some ice at it, because I don't think that's going to melt very fast.
Yeah, but when you find like some kind of
having an override for the airlock, especially not one that Gideon can get into, is a huge oversight, especially when you're dealing with human error and people in there.
And that one, I feel like at least you can't immediately blame Rip for because he didn't build the ship.
Yeah, that's a huge oversight in programming. The fact that there's no manual controls there for it's.
This is a class action lawsuit waiting to happen.
When he gets back to Vanishing Point, man.
I feel like he will have larger problems if he ever makes it back to Vanishing Point. But I loved this ongoing conversation we had, and I love that we kept cutting back to the action and then back to this conversation. I thought it was actually extremely well edited, flowed very well. Just between the two of them talking about what's death like, is this the way you expect it to go?
Yeah.
And then talking about, well, you're still going to have a problem on your hands after this. You have to deal with Mick. And hearing how they first met, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And just kind of seeing where this relationship between the two of them has gone and seeing where it is now. And it's interesting that it's never really gotten to this kind of breaking point that we're seeing now in this. How long have they been working together? Maybe 20 years?
A
Who
long
knows?
time.
Right.
A decade and some change at least.
Yeah.
And that it's taken this much to get this bad.
And it was interesting, I thought, with that conversation, though, because Sarah says with Snart, it's like, yeah, I don't really even like you that much, which, from what all the interactions they've had so far on the show, it really hasn't seen anything that'd be like...
That means he loves her.
Or she likes him. Yeah, she
I
likes
would be 1,000% okay with them having that really weird, we're not friends, but we're really weird comrades. Like, we work together, we're a great team, but as a human being, you are abhorrent.
Right. They're also very similar because you have they're both bad people that are turning good or have turned good, and they're always on the flux of turning terrible and bad and killing people all the time. So
as Snart himself said tonight, people change. Change.
Wentworth?
Yeah.
We didn't get a lot of snark tonight. I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of Snart heart.
Hashtag Snart heart.
Hashtag Snart heart.
Yes. So to save Sarah and Snart,
I'm glad we have a hashtag
Thank you,
Yes.
John, Ray, A. Guevara.
I'm glad that
hashtag
gross word is catching on. That's great.
Are you kidding? Squote is our legacy.
we get Palmer suits up in the suit, which isn't built for space
Right.
travel, but he goes out there to try to seal the breach from the outside.
Works surprisingly well, all things considered.
Absolutely. I mean,
Just
I feel
the fact that he didn't take a minute to go, okay, go back in, open the mask enough to get oxygen, and then go back out. Like, I'm
Right.
sure there was a better solution than almost dying.
Yeah, I'm just surprised he wasn't keeping track of the oxygen, but I'm glad that's something that... this is too much. But I was going to say anything. I'm glad if it works in inner space, it works in outer space.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to say. It's too
weird.
much.
It is, but I love it.
But
It's
you
great.
did it. I'm glad you did not hold that back.
All right. Well, yeah.
That was
I choked on it as it was coming out.
It was a
That was the
rip-roaring
problem.
pun.
Yeah.
I do think, though, the reason most likely that he didn't go back in to get oxygen and come back out, it's two things. One, we have to dramatically build stakes, and if he does that...
We are a CW show.
Yeah. It's like we have to, even if it's slightly artificial, we have to ratchet up the tension as much as we can leading into a commercial. Also, he knows that takes time. They have, 40 some odd minutes without commercials. We don't have time for Ray to go inside the ship and come back out. We got to cut to commercial sooner than that.
It takes 30 seconds.
Also,
I realize they're dying in there, but if you die while trying to repair it, then everyone's dead and we're all hosed. And then Star City 2046 comes to pass. Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
What really, though, there was immediately after he successfully does space science, when he comes back in and he's frozen and he's in cardiac arrest, Kendra rips the entire front piece of the suit off.
Yeah.
And I get it. If the way we were going to wake him up is doing the pounding on the chest thing, then yes, you have to get past the chest plate. I bet that's really expensive, and I bet that's going to take a really long time to fix, and that thing doesn't work well anyway.
Well, the thing about CPR is, and this always intrigues me, especially after they make it look like such a good idea in the movies, CPR screws you up. CPR is a last resort. We need to get this person's heart pumping again, but your heart is behind a lot of bones called
you
your
break
rib
'em.
cage. So you wind up with a lot of fractured ribs if someone is doing CPR hard enough to get your heart compressing again.
And
Kendra can do that.
She's got these hawk powers.
Yeah.
But he's just like, I'm fine. Let's go fight things.
I'm good. We have an infirmary.
Because it's a CW show.
I also like how at one point he's like, I came back from hypothermia really fast. I'm like, 3 people came back from hypothermia really fast in this episode. But
between assassin training and running cold, I'm all right.
Right.
While they're working on that, we've got Rip and Rory arguing there in the hold of the other ship, and that's when Rory just finds out that I really wasn't selected.
That I thought
That was
actually
amazing.
that was a fantastic and really cutting moment where
Best part of the episode.
Yeah,
hands
where
down.
I would agree with you, where Rip essentially tells him, no, you're only here because you and your partner were a package deal.
Yeah, you have the IQ of meat.
Which was pretty
I
fantastic.
loved that. Oh my god.
But I just want to chime in with I love all the hashtags that are coming out right now. Hashtag Hawk Powers. Hashtag Ray's suit sucks.
Okay, so we have hashtag awkward. Did you really not go the extra step for hashtag Hawkward?
Hawkward!
Come on!
Hashtag Hawkward.
If you are a Hawkeye fan at all, that hashtag is in your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Hashtag Hawkward.
That made me
perfect.
happy.
So
That's
we
why
got
you keep
Yeah,
me.
Rory breaks at that point. That's
Yeah.
it. You feel like from that moment on, he is on his own.
Stick a fork in him, he is done.
Yeah.
right.
Oh, because
That
that's
actually
meat.
surprised me. I
Because
thought,
he's
That's meat.
Whoa, I didn't intend that, but I'm very happy with how it
well
went.
done,
really
everyone.
good.
You have
well
redeemed
done.
yourself from this
Dan
quote.
coming in
It's
at
really
the
good.
top.
It's really
I
good.
am going to quote that one.
Because he's meat. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Oh yeah, so Rory cuts his
About how
that's
done
it.
he
He's
is.
done, and he's gonna go talk to Valor, and he's gonna cut his own deal. That's one thing he does know. He might have the IQ of meat, but he knows how to make a deal.
And he also knows the word parlay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Everyone does after Pirates of the Caribbean. The French came up with it. They also invented mayonnaise.
That's true.
You know what? That's actually, I will totally buy in a world where we know that he has seen Eyes Wide Shut and he can reference things
That's
like
right.
Happy
Yes.
Days and Grease.
Yeah.
5 I'll buy that he's seen Pirates of the Caribbean.
I also
Well, and
I
that's
think he
the-
says parlay at that moment just to be like, I am smart.
Yeah.
Parlay. So, But I actually thought, I was surprised that he actually betrayed people. I thought that was going to be one of those switches right at the...
But I'm glad they went for it. Though.
I'm glad they went for it,
that
too.
they really committed to that.
I'm
So
glad-
so he goes to Valor and says, "All right, if you just get me back to my own time, I will make sure you get the Wave Rider."
Right.
Well, and there's literally one person that he cares about on that ship, and that is Leonard. And Leonard betrayed him in his eyes. So, and neither of them are very good at sitting down and going, look, here's the situation, let's talk it out. They don't do that.
No, the closest they came, I think, was tonight near the end, and it's mostly them grunting at each other.
Yeah.
Well, he does go back. But, I mean, he does
Hashtag
get back to the
Snart
ship,
heart.
but
Snart.
he gives Snart a chance. I mean, when he comes back and he tricks everybody else to let him back on the ship with all the space pirates, he does tell Snart, like, "Hey, I'm going back. You want to come with me?" He gives him that moment. There, one last chance. You screwed me before, but I'm going to give you one more chance. You going to come with me? And Snart says, No. I'm sticking with this team.
I'm choosing sides.
And that's the thing. There is that moment, and especially coming after the conversation where Snart tells Sarah how they met, and it's like, I've known this guy since I was a little kid, and he's always been this way, but we've always been able to balance each other out. And now, you know, he sees this thing where I had to knock him out and put him in a box because he was going crazy. He sees that as a betrayal of the highest order, and now I'm put in a situation where he's giving me no choice but to firmly, probably for the first time, truly take a stance against him. And I thought that was a crazy, crazy effective moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and we've always kind of seen that Leonard has more heart to him, and we've seen it in this
Snart-heart.
series as
Snart-heart.
well. Snart heart.
Hashtag Snart heart.
Where he stole the emerald to try and keep his dad out of jail, to try and keep him from becoming abusive. Like, he does a lot of this for a reason.
Right.
And we've seen that established in The Flash, and we've seen that established here. Mick, not so much. He blows things up because fun. So it's not surprising.
Hashtag McMeat.
Yes, I saw that.
That's
yes.
for you, John Ray.
And
McMeat.
in front of my face.
McMeat.
Down.
So much McMeat.
Down.
So much McMeat.
So I'm not surprised that Leonard went this way after meeting these people, fighting alongside them, etc. And I'm not surprised that Mick completely dropped it.
Well, it's
even though
interesting-
we did have steps with him going in that direction after the prison.
Yeah, it seems very much like there has always been a potential for good in both of them, but we've seen since they started traveling through time and space that Leonard is a lot more open to that idea. I do think, despite his general all of it. Mick is
Demeanor?
Yeah, I was going to say
general
demeanor,
growl.
but it's not just his
General
demeanor. It's like
everything.
the way he thinks and the way
Right.
he all of it. Despite that, I do think there is a similar capacity for good in Rory, but he is just not open to it in the way that Snart is. And as soon as you see your friend going in this other direction and you yourself start to feel more and more isolated, and you are, as Rory is, prone to fits of belligerent anger, I feel like then you start to reject that notion of good more and more aggressively.
Well, it's certainly like anybody that's has a best friend who all of a sudden they get involved in a relationship and they start moving off with that other person. You feel like they're leaving me. They're moving on to this other stage of their life. What about me? What am I going to do?
Well, and Snart can also think in angles and curves and whatnot, think ahead, see the consequences, etc. And Mick is just point A to point B, done.
Light it on
Goodbye.
fire.
Yeah.
And so
wants to
he's
be
not
comfortable.
able to see a lot of the ramifications, a lot of the reasons that Leonard is doing what he's doing. And so, yeah, he feels betrayed. He's not processing it the same way. And we don't really have time to walk him through processing it that way. And
Right.
the only person who could do it is the person he's mad at.
Right.
So this is a no-win situation just because of who they are.
For sure.
And while that's all happening on the Wave Rider, we've got Stein in his sweet beret and space gun. He frees everybody else from the ship, and for some reason does not decide to fuse with Jackson to become Firestorm. They decide to
We
stay
can't
solo.
set stuff on fire in the ship. He's constantly on fire. It's not a winning situation.
Well, I was wondering because they had that tense moment where they're like, where Rip is supposed to be doing something, is supposed to hit a button or something, and they're like back to back, and I kept going, why aren't they just blasting him away with nuclear powers?
Yeah.
Why is that not happening?
Or with the guns they're holding.
Yeah, but then it was revealed the whole point was so he can do that airlock thing and burst them all out, so none of them get like shot in Crossfire, which made sense after a while. But there was a extended moment where I'm like, I don't know why they're not becoming a superhero right now.
Artificial drama.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
really should have sent someone with Rip just to make sure that they have better odds in a 2-on-1 fight instead of this big, well, we're going to fight each other and it's going to be manly and rolling around on the floor and guns and, oh, hey, artificial trauma time.
Well, and yes, absolutely, you send a second person for those reasons, but before you can even get to any of those reasons, how about you send a second person so that when Rip inevitably takes his time to line up a shot on someone who doesn't even know he's there and still misses, somebody else can take the same shot and we can finish the job and go home.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, it's a CW show. This is the bad decision conga line. It started on Arrow and it just keeps going.
But I will say, Rip did look really cool jumping over the surfaces and kicking Valor in the face.
He did,
Well,
and
he's a maverick. That's the point.
Yeah,
Right.
he sets the plan in motion, basically just copies his wife's move that she ran in the simulation there, and just blasts all the space pirates out of the airlocks of the ship, and is able to restore order to the ship. Meanwhile, on the Wave Rider, we've got Sarah taking on Mick, who's trying to get the core for the time ship, and we see Sarah and Rory. Sarah and Rory going at it there, which is interesting. I mean, he's just a bull. You see that fight scene, he's just going toe-to-toe with her.
Yeah, I mean, even with Sarah's training, and to that point, I love that when they're fighting the pirates on the ship, I love that it seems like out of nowhere, she just finds something she can turn into a staff.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great. Like, that, I think, is her true power, is her ability to take anything in her environment and turn it into a long fighting weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with her training, there's obviously a major discrepancy in her physicality versus Mick's physicality, and watching her take some of those hits, I felt the impact of a lot of that.
Well, yeah, you have your rogue fighting the party tank. That's not going to go well. He's a tank for a reason.
Yeah,
Right.
but he has a little moment of heart. He just says, I do like you, Sarah, so I'm only going to kill you a little.
I'm only going to kill you a little.
Just a little.
Bless.
Like, you don't know how killing works.
Second best line. Well, Gideon had the line that made us all laugh, but I cannot for the life of me remember what it was.
Oh, it's after the Kendra gets Palmer out of the brings it back to life, the cardiac arrest, and then Snart
Yeah.
and Sarah right there's like, he's like, oh, Palmer almost died out in space. Yeah. Like, all right,
Just
cool.
the way it
Thanks,
was
Gideon.
delivered, like, I didn't...
Thanks,
Gideon
Gideon.
does not usually have my favorite line in any given episode, so it's glorious.
So why do we think that Gideon has, just to step a little bit back, why does Gideon have the same name as the Flash's Gideon?
But the other ones don't. Like, the other
ones
AIs don't have the same
Now
name.
I feel like that's a hint at something, but I'm not sure what. I don't know. That just seems like it's a weird coincidence.
And
I
are
don't think we have the puzzle pieces for that yet.
And it's right, and it's also, are we meant to assume it's the same Gideon and they just didn't use Miranda Baccarin this time because Miranda Baccarin's very busy, or is it because there's Amy Pemberton doing the voice? Is it a different Gideon?
I would posit that all AI are derivative of the Gideon that Barry Allen invented, programmed, etc., whatever.
Right.
And that we needed G names. Okay, we'll reuse Gideon for this one, and then we need a bunch of others.
Yeah, maybe it's just like whatever you do in the beginning settings. Like some people just like, I'm gonna make this Gideon a guy named Gary.
Well, like, you know how a
He's
lot
gonna
of
have this
GPS apps you can choose if you want a male or female. You can make them British.
Elvis,
I think
yeah.
Morgan Freeman is on
Freeman.
Waze now. Yeah, so maybe it's like that.
Right, perfect.
I would love for Morgan Freeman to be my ship's AI.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Captain Palmer almost died.
So Snart steps in and saves Sarah from getting burned alive by Rory there, and so everything is all well and good. And we even get a little moment for Kendra and Ray to have a little smoochy smooch.
Yeah.
Yeah, woo.
That just came out of nowhere. That was
Yeah.
great.
For some reason, I never like the ships that Ray is in. I had this trouble on the Arrow panel. I'm having it now.
I
feel like
disagree.
we just dump him in and go.
You know, I feel like I was the one person on the Arrow panel that really enjoyed the Ray and Felicity
I like
romance.
that too. I think that works.
I never got over his introduction because
It
can
was
you
weird.
say stalker?
It was. I agreed. It was weird, but you get to know more about him, and I agree. As a guy that smart probably should know better. But it's like, all right, he meant really well, and he stopped that after a while. But I just don't see that chemistry. Like, what I really liked, and I said this when we talked about it on the Arrow panel, I really liked watching the two of them together because there was a certain energy about their back and forth that felt like watching an old, like a classic Hollywood screwball comedy to me.
Right.
And
bit, yeah.
I think that Kendra and Ray work really well as teammates, as compatriots, but I don't think they have that crackle to their back and forth that I would have expected if you
True.
were just going to have them kiss. Now, granted, they did just almost die.
Yeah.
So maybe it's
I'm
that.
willing to blame it on the hormones, but I really hope they don't pursue it.
Yeah, and I hope they
It's a
just.
CW show. I'm hoping in vain.
Everyone's
romance.
going to smooch everybody.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
just like, let they're alone on a ship for a while. Let them have a casual hookup every now and then. Just as long as they're not like, we love each other.
There's only 6 people on the ship at this point.
Right.
Because we're in a no body, no death scenario with that last of mice and men sort of scene that we got.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling that Mick has exited stage left, pursued by ice for a good long while.
I would assume if we see him again, it won't be for some time. But then I started thinking, now, I do agree. I think it's generally TV has taught us, if it's taught us nothing else, if we don't see a body, they're probably going to come back somehow. And even in the case of
Superhero show.
But also in a show like this, like we saw Carter's body, I'm pretty positive we're going to see him come back again. But I was really taken with the idea that, wow, wouldn't it be nuts? Like, wouldn't it be really, really ballsy if they slowly, over the course of the rest of the season, just started killing off the team? And by the end of this season, they stop Vandal Savage, but there is no more team left. And that's how they become the legends that they so desire to be, is by ultimately all falling in the name of taking down this ultimate evil. And that's also why we need a new roster for season 2.
It's
I was
interesting.
going to say,
This
that's
is-
the end of your show.
This is what I think too. I think maybe he adjusted the cold gun to keep him cryogenically frozen for a while. So they put him somewhere in time, and he's just going to get thawed out later.
Well, that's the other. That's where my whole thing falls apart slightly. Is that I don't believe for a second that Snart would actually kill.
no, he's
Vic.
not.
Yeah.
No, there's no way he's dead.
No, because we do have a moment there where they're all standing there on the Wave Rider deciding what to do with Rory. And they know they can't take him back just to 2016 because all their friends and family are there for possible retaliations by Rory if they
Right.
left him alone right there in that timeline. So Snart does take him somewhere. We don't know exactly what time or what location, but they do have that little one moment there between the two of them.
Based on where they are in the woods, like the patch of woods, it looks like they dropped him on a location for the X-Files in like 1995.
All right.
They put him on the island in Arrow. Everyone winds up there. There was someone in the chat, and this is like way at the beginning of the episode, so I do not remember who it was, who made a comment about why didn't they drop him in 2016 in the pipeline?
Yeah.
Right.
I
That is the
mean,
best
there's a
place to
point for
disrupt.
that, but
Yeah.
it's not like the
Just like Sheldon
pipeline
would be like,
is.
Barry, put him in the pipeline. And he'll be like, all right.
Yeah. Why was he not already
Don't
here?
ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we're going to find out. But as we're wrapping up here just a couple minutes, but we do have time for real quick predictions, everybody.
Right.
And I'll just get mine out of the way quick. I'm really liking what you're saying about everybody.
I love the Light Show.
About the everybody falling. Because we do know if it comes back for a second season, it is going to be another cast and another villain.
Yes. Now, is that necessary? Well, I was going to say, is it necessarily what I would like to see happen? I actually think that would be a really ballsy move on their part, and I think it would be really cool. Now, I like a lot of these characters. I don't want to see all of these characters die.
No.
Yeah.
And they don't have to necessarily die, but just be at least taken out of play.
Yes,
in some fashion.
and that's the thing. It's like, this is a way, like, Carter is gone in this form, but Carter can come back, but they could choose not to go that way, and Carter's effectively, he's not dead, but he's dead.
Off the board.
Right, he's off the board.
He's off the board.
Mick, they can go back to, but if they don't, then he's off the board as well. And so I think it would be interesting to find a way to, take everybody, because we're getting close. I mean, we're almost halfway through. So I think you could find a lot of really interesting, really dramatic ways to have some of these villainous characters as well fulfill their character arcs by making really ultimately heroic sacrificial choices that lead to the defeat of Vandal Savage. Will this happen in late 1950s Oregon? I don't know.
Right.
What he's doing in late 1950s Oregon with
Making
what look
vampires.
like with vampires? I couldn't tell you. I'm
Could be
excited to find
vampires.
out.
They're monsters. They look like monsters of some sort. Could be vampires. I'm guessing that Mick's going to come back at the end of one of these episodes, or somewhere in the middle. Not the next one, but probably like 3 episodes later, and just save the day out of nowhere.
He's like, guys,
mine.
I trademarked Mick Meat. I'm rich.
See, I figure we won't get him for maybe another 6 episodes or so, and it's going to be shoot, we really, really need him. It's time to deal with this problem. We need this guy.
You know what may happen too is not, because I don't think they want to end their season with everybody is either dead or lost in the time stream.
Yeah,
So
this
I think
isn't Game of Thrones.
So I think we'll see people start to drop off, but by the end they all have to reassemble to finally take down Vandal Savage, and that's where everybody gets to have their hero moment.
You know what
Except
would
Carter?
be cool? You know what would be
Yes.
cool if Snart actually meant to kill him, but then he gets interrupted by future Snart, who comes back in time to stop him from killing him because they need him for something else. That would be kind of nice.
It breaks the rules that we've established in the
Right,
show
but
that you can't
it'll
go back
happen.
to a time where you are.
Right, but then they'll wibbly wobbly their way into it somehow.
And that's
Speaking
why
of wibbly wobbly,
Yeah.
I swear the bat creatures that they're making look like the creatures from School Reunion. That's all. The big winged things that I can't. It's gonna be great. It's a state south of Washington, so it looks like we're just getting vampires up and down the West Coast.
All right, well, let's see what's in store for us next week here on Legends of Tomorrow. But in the meantime, let's continue the conversation on the Twitterverse.
Yes.
Katie, where can they find you?
I'm Katie Cullen. You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet. I am also on Snapchat at Kia Prime. A lot of my shows are on hiatus right now. Arrow's doing that 3-week spring break thing that it does.
Yeah.
But Star Wars Rebels is on Wednesday, Blind Spot is on Tuesday nights, and Robots in Disguise is back. It's on Sundays at 7. Thank you to everyone continuing the red versus blue jokes in the chat. I would like to leave you with the idea that Kronos is Locus. Have fun.
I'm Dave Child. You can find me at MrDaveChild on Twitter and Instagram, and DaveChild.com.
And I am Lex Michael, all over social media at the Lex Michael. Come, everyone, and talk to me. We'll discuss Snart Hearts and Mick Meats
We'll squote
And
till the
squoting. We
squoting.
will squote all day.
and squote till the squids come
Till
back.
we're
Space
quoted out.
Jam and
right.
all manner of whatnots.
And I'm Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. We'll see you next time here. Follow us on Facebook, like us on iTunes, give us 5 stars. We'll see
5
you next
stars.
week. Legends of Tomorrow.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
People change.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.